So this past Thursday, I went to go see Marvel Studios' Eternals. Now, to preface this, I actually am a fan of the Eternals. I wouldn't say a huge fan. I'm not going to be waiting outside of a Hot Topic for the latest, sickest Eternals merch, but I've read nearly every comic, and I'm currently reading the Kieran Gillen run, which I'm both thoroughly confused and entertained by. I just personally love weird shit, and Jack Kirby, the creator of these characters, was an expert in that department. That's why I'm fond of this movie and was hyped for this movie, especially when dealing with such grand and cosmic characters like the Celestials. I'm ready for more cosmic MCU and just all around craziness. When I saw the critic reviews and how different from what you'd expect of a Marvel film they were, that really only fueled my intrigue, because Chloe Zhao is a proven great director. The movie's runtime was long, so I felt confident a great story had enough time to be told, and the cast was A1. So I was curious, what could have gone down? Now, having come out of the theater, I both understand and disagree with the ratings, but only slightly. Now, I enjoyed the hell out of this movie, but I can't really say it's great, but I also can't say that it was bad. It was truly the oddest and most beautiful MCU movie I've ever seen. Ambitious as hell and insanely unconventional, which I feel kind of fits these characters perfectly. Honestly, this movie was such a delightfully strange experience. So with this review, I'll go over the story, the problems, the likes and dislikes. I'll explain the mid and post credit scenes, give you the things that I would have personally changed about this movie that I think could have helped it, and of course, give it my personal rating as well. As a fan of the Eternals, guys, I want to try and unpack some of this stuff for you, because a lot of you might not be so familiar, and as a guy who's a fan of these characters and who has read a lot of them, I left the theater confused. So I really want to help you guys out, maybe shed some light on certain things, might help you think about the movie differently. Before we get into that, if you'd be so kind, please hit the sub button to support your boy, turn on your notifications, leave a thumbs up, and follow my social medias. Real quick, guys, thank you all so much for 315. That is 100 subs in a year, the first time that has ever happened in my YouTube career. So I just want to say thank you so much to everybody. We're not stopping till the moon, okay? There is a new goal for 2021 now that we hit that goal, but I will announce it in another video, because let's sit in this accomplishment. Thank you guys so much. Every sub, I assure you, is a dub. So again, very much appreciation. Now, let's get into the thick of it. So the premise of Eternals is that the Celestials, the makers of the universe, to put that into perspective, mofos that existed before the Infinity Stones, created the Eternals when the Deviants started to emerge to protect humankind and their natural evolution. And the Eternals were instructed not to interfere in affairs unless they involved Deviants. That's why nobody helped with Thanos or any of the horrible shit that happened in humankind. And the Eternals as well gently helped push mankind forward with technology and so forth. But once the perceived last of the Deviants are killed, Dina starts to suffer from an eternal disease called Mad Weary, and has episodes where she loses control and starts attacking wildly and actually almost hurts some of the members of the team. The group then is pushed to a boiling point with them defeating the last of the monsters. They thus fulfill their life's purpose. They basically reached a level cap. There's nothing left for them to do in the game. The only monsters that exist now that kill humans are other humans, and Druig shines so much in these deeper moments. Ajax, being the Prime Eternal, the one that can communicate with the Celestials, the leader, is closest to the Celestials and the one to relay their orders, and Druig hates what he sees, the fighting that he could stop but is ordered not to for some reason that he doesn't know. It's maddening, and he grills her on it and the ludicrousy of the orders. Icarus, being second in command and extremely loyal to the cause, pushes back, and they all decide it's best to go their separate ways. Finally, after several millennia they've spent together. Present time now, the week directly after the blip, the Deviants have returned stronger than ever, and this forces the separated Eternals to band back together to defeat them. And the majority of the movie we spend between flashbacks and reunions. It seems Ajax was murdered by a Deviant very early on in the movie, and the Deviants are now able to steal powers so they can heal themselves now. And Cersei is chosen then to be the Prime Eternal and is now able to communicate with the Celestials. And throughout the movie, she tries to communicate with Erishim and finally does, and we get a very huge exposition dump, and we find out that the Eternals are actually millions of years old, just like in the comics, and are basically highly advanced robots. Picture Vision times 100, maybe even 1,000, and their actual purpose was to guard human life from the Deviants, because the Celestials chose certain planets to seed unborn Celestials in, so that when the human population grew high enough, that unborn Celestial could draw from the energy of the humans and be born, and in doing so, that would destroy the planet and the Eternals, which would be reanimated at the World Forge, and their memories are also stored there from previous times that they had done this. So this revelation shakes the team, and they start to question what else could be lies. What other things did their gods tell them that just happened to be not true? So the focus is not on the deviants anymore, but in stopping this process from taking place. Next stop is Druig, who is still semi-reluctant to help the team, but when the deviants attack and get the best of Gilgamesh, he decides to join the efforts. Cersei also discovers she can matter manipulate biological objects, so that's huge, something that she was led to believe she couldn't do. So chalk another lie up on the board. After that, we go to the man with a plan, Phastos the Builder, okay, who now lives a normal life with a family and is not interested in any of this, but will do anything to protect him. So he steps up. We head to the Domo, the Eternal ship, and I have no idea, but I'm guessing Makari was chilling in there for a cool millennia. Like, honestly, I have no idea. It felt like she came from nowhere. Like, where was she even at? Was she just in the ship? Underground? Like, I don't even know. But this is where Phastos conceives up the Unimind, which was basically a hyper weird process in which the Eternals merge together and become significantly more powerful. Basically a demigod Megazord, if you will. And the next revelation, which totally got me, was that Icarus was the bad guy all along, which I believe they took inspiration from the Neil Gaiman run, where Sprite was actually the one who was behind it all. He like made all the Eternals forget who they were, and I think he actually made himself human. I'm not too sure. I need to go back to the Neil Gaiman run. It's honestly so good. He killed Ajax and is now warning the rest of the Eternals not to interfere with the celestial birth or else, which is like, what's the worst that could happen? Honestly, at that point, like, they'd just be reactivated, even though they don't know that, but they would. And this is when Icarus goes hardcore zealot mode and even attacks Kingo, and then Kingo dips, which I was like, damn man, like, you gotta ride or die with your fam right now, like, what the hell are you doing? And then Sprite, being in love with Icarus, goes with him. And I actually really like the Peter Pan analogy that Kingo says that Sprite is Tinkerbell and she's always jealous of Wendy being Cersei and Peter Pan being Icarus. And I believe in the comics, Sprite was actually an inspiration for Peter Pan, so that's actually a pretty cool little thing that they threw in there. Basically, the remaining Eternals all decide they won't give up even if Icarus is in their way, and after a pretty entertaining battle, halfway through the birthing process, Cersei is able to touch the Celestial, Tiamut, or the Dreaming Celestial, and stop it as well with the power of the Unimind, and they save the day. Icarus then flies too close to the sun, killing himself in penance for his actions. Sprite apologizes to Cersei, and Cersei uses the remaining power of the Unimind to turn Sprite human, which I was like, that's so awesome. Finally, she gets to live a normal life, and that's also 100% something that needed to happen. Like, you just can't have an immortal child logistically in a movie franchise. Like, that's just never gonna work. I was curious how they were gonna do that, but basically Thena, Makari, and Druig decide to go find other Eternals on the Domo in space to let them know the truth, and Cersei returns to Dane Whitman, but along with the remaining Eternals, they get paid a visit by Arishem, and he takes them back to the World Forge to check their memories to see if planet Earth is really worthy to live, and that's basically where the movie ends. And so it was kind of abrupt. Then the mid-credit scene was pretty dope with a very surprising Pip the Troll and Star Fox entrance. I really love the teleporting tech they used. It reminded me of the Bifrost and Thor. Now basically Eros has come to help after finding out where Arishem was taking them. Eros is a prime Eternal, as he shows with that golden orb, and seems to know what he's doing, and this makes me just hella curious. Like how deeply ingrained was Thanos in this Eternal culture? I'm so much more curious about Titan culture now, because in the comics there was a rift between Eternals and some went from Earth to colonize Titan, and so how exactly does that work in the MCU, since Arishem seems like a bad mofo that would instantly be on top of that kind of dissidence, but he let them have a whole civilization on Titan? Like, I want to know more about that and of the dynamic between Star Fox and his brother. What was he doing when Thanos decided to fuck everything up? When will they connect Thena and Thanos? Like, does Thena know her father is Zurus? Does she know Thanos was her cousin? Like, right here, it would have been the perfect time for Eros to call Thena his cousin. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that has yet to be unraveled. And also, when Harry Styles came out in the theater as Star Fox, instantly right there, I knew he was the perfect guy for the job, because all of the women and probably some of the dudes in my theater just simultaneously had an orgasm, and people were moaning and they were fucking screaming, and I was like, can y'all shut the fuck up? I'm trying to hear what this motherfucker has to say. And if you don't know who Eros is, or Star Fox, he's the brother of Thanos, and his power is basically he can activate the pleasure centers in somebody. So basically basically he's an orgasm machine. So Harry Styles, I think, is going to be very good at that. Now, the post-credit scene was of Dane Whitman finally finding out the true history of his family, which is being wielders of the Ebony Blade and a long lineage of Black Knights. I'm not too familiar with the lore behind Black Knight, but it's for the most part King Arthur-esque. Like, you can kind of picture what I'm saying. The blade as it's shown is special and can cut through just about anything, even adamantium. So Black Knight will be quite formidable, especially if he links with Cersei again and does the Gan Jonas, which is, I don't even want to go into that. I have other videos about that. I hated even saying that right now. I'm gonna go jump into a polar bear pit. But before I do that, and before Dane could touch the blade, he's met with a mysterious hidden voice that asks, "Are you sure you're ready for that, Dane Whitman?" Which at first I didn't know who the hell that was. I thought that was somebody that might be a part of the Black Knight lore. So I was just like, I don't even give a fuck. I need to still think about what the fuck I just saw. But then Chloe Zhao confirmed that that voice was Blade. First appearance in the MCU, or not really appearance, but inclusion of Blade. Imagine though how hard it would have been if they actually just panned the camera and Mahershala Ali was chilling in full Blade costume. I wish, but still, it was a solid post-credit scene, but god damn, that would have been so hard, man. Can't wait for Blade. Now, as far as the things I liked, Chloe Zhao did an amazing job at making these godlike characters anything but. She did an incredible job at making the Eternals grand, but extremely human and flawed. It was implied they were insanely sophisticated machines, and it kind of reminds me of the concept of machines being able to feel and being flawed, similar to Blade Runner, as I said before, and I'll say it again, machines trying to be human is the shit. I absolutely love it. The castings also were great, to be honest. I know some people have issues because they deviated from the source material, and I understand why, but I actually am cool with it as a fan of the Eternals. Although I am a fan, I'm not as closely connected to these characters as I am with characters like Spider-Man or Wolverine. Like, changes to those characters, I'd 100% be more sensitive to and fight back against. Also, these characters, being who they are, have zero clout, okay? So it'd be one thing if they made a highly popular character a different race, gender, or sexuality, and use that character's already existing clout to propel whatever ideas or things that they want to propel. But this is far from that case, okay? Honestly, I think if you're trying to change things for diversity, the Eternals is the perfect IP to do that for. Also, some of the changes, in my opinion, help the story, not necessarily having to do with any of that. As much as we love seeing these godlike figures go hard and unleash their powers, it can be hard to care if there isn't a human element there, something relatable, something flawed, something we can feel as well. To make gods imperfect, I think is quite beautiful and makes me more intrigued by the Celestials' intentions. You got Sprite, who understandably feels jealousy for being made to exist as a child. Like, why would the Celestials relegate someone to that kind of suffering? You have Kingo being self-obsessed even when his whole purpose of being made was like altruism. They gave Thena a god disease. Like, what the hell? Gods don't get diseases. What is that? And as much as I love Brian Tyree Henry, I was hoping he'd get diesel as fuck like Kumail for the role. That's not the physique I think of when I think of a god, but instead the Celestials made him rotund. Quite rotund. Still love you, Brian Tyree Henry. And a whole slew of other things you wouldn't really expect out of supposedly perfect beings. But I think the Eternals, honestly, are to the Celestials what the humans are to them. They can't understand why humans would hurt each other, yet they're guilty just the same. They're fighting amongst each other, having all these issues. And besides the deeper, more emotional aspects, the movie is just shot beautifully. CGI as well for the majority of the film is great. Y'all know me, I love speedsters, and Makari was amazing. They found a way to make her speed different from the other versions of Speed. I know a lot of people got tired of the slow-mo speed that we've been getting a lot, and to the movie's credit, they gave us a lot of real-time speed, which was nice to see. Cersei's matter manipulation was also very beautiful. Phastos was the blueprint for Tony Stark, okay? Really loved how formidable they made him, because I was like, this guy's a builder. How are they gonna make him like really like insanely badass? But they did it, and I really like how they made him be able to go up against Icarus. Icarus was also a treat. Anything Superman-like will always be awesome to me. That's about as much as I can remember I really enjoyed about seeing this film. Now, as far as this movie goes, I can 100% understand why it's getting the scores it is. Structurally, this movie feels almost incomplete, or more so unending, which might have been what Chloe Zhao was going for. The movie almost feels like there is no beginning or end. The pacing as well was odd, considering we'd be constantly switching from flashbacks to present time randomly throughout, and the movie, just like the Eternals comics, was very high concept and ambitious as hell. There was a lot of really big ideas they were going for, but fell a bit flat on executing them, and the third act felt very weird. Also, Crow is not a character, and neither are the Deviants. Having a villain in the movie is very important around, if you don't have a good villain, at least for me, it kind of messes up the movie. The deviants and Crow are treated like plot devices. That's basically what they are. Please, guys, for all my collectors out there, I implore you, if there's one Marvel Legends figure or Pop Funko to not buy, it's Crow. He shows up and disappears just as soon in the movie, so they really used him poorly, and the deviants. Also, this movie is one of the longest MCU movies to date at 2 hours and 36 minutes, but I think what I really overlooked was that you're basically introducing 10 very high concept, insanely obscure characters that are so important to the foundation of the MCU that to make us understand and feel for all of them in that time span was an insanely tall order. Okay, I heard the cast was nearly 12, but they cut down to a reasonable 10. And to her credit, Chloe Zhao did a great job for what she had to do. Like, I cared for Cersei, I cared for Sprite, and I really loved how they pulled her motivation straight from the comics, specifically the Neil Gaiman run, where Sprite basically hates that he was made a child, but is literally 1,000,000 years old and gets treated like a child everywhere he goes and can never find love because of it. Like, how would that affect somebody? Even someone who was supposed to be kind of a god. I felt like they had good stuff there, they just barely touched on. I cared for Druig, seeing everything going down, having the power to stop it, but being forced not to, and choosing to disobey. I cared for Phastos and his family, his adorable son, and the guilt he must have held on to for helping mankind and them using it to commit atrocities on each other. And while I like all the characters, I felt that half of them were severely underdeveloped. We didn't get much from Gilgamesh or even Thena. Makari as well wasn't really dived into and shows up super late. Like, speedsters are the ones we want to see. They're the spectacle. I love seeing speedsters. Ajak obviously dies like in the very beginning, and I was really hoping to see more Salma Hayek. Like, come on. Kingo is awesome, but I just wish we got more of him and them and got a little deeper in their personal dilemmas. The movie does good with most of what it is, but it's so ambitious and grand and doesn't have time to unravel all that it can be. So again, guys, I'm an idiot. Chloe Zhao and company are infinitely better storytellers than I'll probably ever be, but I have one thing that they do not have: hindsight. So the things I'd change immediately is cutting the cast in half. We drop Kingo, Phastos, Gilgamesh, and Druig. I love these guys in the movie, but their characters in the comics at least come later on than the rest of the cast, which was more the immediate members of the team when the Eternals first launched back in 1976. That way we don't have to spread our time with each character so thin. Thus, we'd have more fulfilling and satiating character arcs by the end of the movie. Make Crow and the Deviants the main antagonists and sprinkle in the lies of the Celestials and some of that doubt and some of those revelations throughout the movie, and maybe wait till the end for that big revelation, but don't just put it in the middle like how it was done in the movie. We don't get into the Dreaming Celestial just yet. Maybe it's teased for the next movie, but just not yet. And Crow doesn't die, or the Deviants, okay? They're still gonna be Deviants, but they are relegated back to Lemuria. I think one of the biggest issues is that story-wise, they tried to bring us something fresh and brand new. And while I'd normally applaud that, I think anybody would, but I think for characters as obscure as these and it being their first live action appearance, you can get away with a translation that doesn't deviate far from the comic storyline. Like, honestly, just rip it all out straight from the comics. At least that's what I would do. Eternals is truly a mixed bag. I know Chloe Zhao took a lot of inspiration from Zack Snyder, and this film almost felt similar to one of his films. Such grand ideas put on screen, but just too much ambition to fit in the allotted runtime. That's why I think the Snyder Cut is where Snyder really excelled. Stories as grand as that need more time to be told. And I get it, one would argue a director should be able to tell a story within that 2-hour mark, but if you're infinitely better with long form content, then shoot that marathon of a moving picture, player. I fully support that. At the end of the day, Eternals had too many problems plot and structure wise to be great, but also had too many deeply emotional character moments and too much breathtaking cinematography for it to be bad. And that is why I'm giving the Eternals a solid 7 out of 10. We struck a wild balance with the Eternals. I love these characters. I just wanted to spend more time with them. And although this isn't as spectacular or as quality an entrance as the MCU is used to, but for what time we got, I cared. So shout out to Ms. Zhao for pulling that off. Hopefully we get to see more of these characters in the MCU and in a potential sequel, even the dead ones, okay? I swear we're getting those reactivation chambers at the World Forge. That's why I'm not sweating any of these deaths really. I can see Icarus coming back and Salma Hayek as Ajak because she signed a multi-picture contract, so I'm not sweating. That's it, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the movie. Did you love it, or did you hate it, or did it just not do anything for you? Let me know. I'm very curious. What do you think could have made the movie better? What are some issues that you have with it? Some of the stuff that you like? I would love to hear all your guys' thoughts. But that's it. If you liked the video, leave me a thumbs up, comment down below, and if you want to subscribe, I always appreciate it. I hope everybody's well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.